All right, Patreon folks, this is the second tutorial of the month. We're going to be making these custom kind of procedural lights. Now you can stick these on like the front of like a motorcycle light or an old car. They're kind of fashioned to be sort of your old style looking light. Obviously they don't look like that now because they're just on a ball, but once you apply them to something, I'll show you how they look on this Porsche model. So I put the light here on this Porsche model. You see how nice it looks. It's more of that old kind of vintage looking light. So it really works well on this one. You can see how I changed the color a little bit on this Porsche. But it's a really, really nice looking piece. Has that kind of fade off. It's nice and glass. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And I've never really done this particular process before. So I'm kind of excited to show you guys this. Super versatile. So let's just get straight into doing that. I'm going to open up a brand new Blender window. And we're going to go straight into it. It works in EV and cycle. So that's really good. All right, so we're going to go ahead, Shift A, and you can really get any model you like. Most lights are very curved and circular, so I'd, preferably pick something like that. And then I'm going to go and subdivide this guy just to make it nice and smooth so you don't have any of those face issues. I neglected to show you. Here, there are two different types of lights we're seeing here. We're seeing this one. Obviously, they're different colors, but that's not what I mean. So you can see how this one on the edge, you can see these kind of wavy looking you can see these little wavy looking things. We're going to do that, and we're just going to do a nice smooth gradient. So those are the two things we're going to make. So that being said, we're going to get in another one. We're going to work on this one for now. So let's go straight into shading. And what's really cool about the process I mentioned is usually if a material has some emissive features to it, I usually put a mix RGB and then I add an emission node. Well, I figured out a really good process for using this new little emission thing. Now it's technically not really that new, but to me it is because I haven't used it very often. And I'm going to bring my roughness all the way down, and then we're going to go ahead and get our emission all the way up like this. So now we have that, and you can bring your emission strength really high. Now if you're not getting any glow when you add your emission strength, you need to make sure you're in the EV render engine. Ambient occlusion, bloom, screen space reflections is turned on, and that'll give you all the fun stuff. So what we're going to do now is hit Shift A and get a color ramp, and this is where we're going to pick our colors. So I'm going to give myself a nice deep kind of reddish orange to give ourselves this nice sort of back of a car light, and we're going to get in a layer weight, and this gives you that nice gradient look. And we're going to use facing, so plug the facing into the factor, and we're going to get some fun stuff. So I'm bringing my emission strength down for now. I'm going to give my base color all the way down to black. So now we're going to get that really nice look. So you can see how the dark portion is in the middle. We don't want that, so we're just going to go ahead, click this little drop down arrow and click flip color ramp. And then playing with the blend, that's how we're going to get that kind of vintage light look, by getting that kind of dark edge right there. And then you can play with that more if you want. I'm going to get that right there, and then you bring up your emission strength right here. Look at that. Look how beautiful that light is. Now we're going to add a little bit of detail here, play with the roughness. So we're going to go ahead, search up, get another color ramp here, and plug this into the roughness. Let's go ahead and get in a noise texture here. If you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, hit Control T on the noise wrangler, the noise texture, and use the object coordinate. Now we'll plug the factor here into the color ramp, and then let's go ahead and bring this detail up to 12. Bring our roughness relative to be right there. Now let's bring this color ramp in just like this, and then there we go. Now we have a little bit of roughness. You can even bring this white portion in to accentuate that a little bit more. But now we have kind of a dirty light, and it looks pretty cool. It looks great, and you can always go ahead and say, hey, that's too much roughness. I want it to be a little more subtle. Click on the white, and you can bring it down, and it's less, or you can bring it, completely gone. So you can just bring on that subtlety, and it's almost like transparency in a way. So you get a more subtle, roughness on the light. It's very minimal, but details are details. All right. So now let's go ahead and expound on this material to make it kind of wavy on the edges, give it even more kind of vintage look. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on this sphere. I'm going to shade smooth. So click on this sphere first, hold down Shift, and click on this sphere, Control L, and click Materials. So fun little trick there. Now I'm going to go ahead, you can see how there's a number 2 here. That means every time we change this material, it's going to change the other material, and we don't want that. So we need to make a duplicate of that material, and we're just going to click on this little 2, and that makes a duplicate. What that was saying is that material is on 2 objects. If you click it, whatever object you have clicked, it makes a new version of that material. So now we can go ahead and expound on this material to give it some subtle waves. So I'm going to hit Shift A and get in a nice noise texture. We're going to plug in this vector into the vector of the noise texture. What I'm going to do now is just go ahead and Shift D on this color ramp, plug the noise texture into that, and then I'm going to highlight these two guys. I'm going to hit G to bring it back, and we're going to get a mix RGB in my X RGB, and this is how we're going to kind of mix the two to get those fun little waves. Let's plug the color into color 2, and then now we're going to get some craziness right here. So first I'm going to bring this in to give it more contrast on that. And so what we're going to do is we need to play along with the this factor right here, this factor of the mix RGB, so that the waves only show up on the outside. Right now they're showing up everywhere. Of course, we're going to use another trusty layer weight, and then we're going to plug the facing straight into the factor, and then we just go and bring that factor up like so. And then we can go ahead and kind of play around with this. What we're going to do here on the mix RGB is click on the overlay blend mode here. And then now we have some subtle waves that we can kind of play with, so we can bring that blend back. So now we have some interesting looking little waves, very subtle, but gives you a nice effect. And then you can go ahead and kind of play with your noise right there on the background. And say that's too much contrast here on the black portion, you can take the color ramp of these noise texture and just kind of bring it up to that, maybe this color, bring it down to red, make sure you're in that very fiery red, and then you can kind of play with that subtlety, and you get a very subtle detail right there on the edge of your light. So there you go. That is how you create these nice little procedural lights here with Blender, and you can even go crazier with them. Simple little node tree. And yeah, there you go. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys supporting me here on Patreon, and I will see you in the next video.